I cracked Avengers Doomsday's full story, and what I discovered will change how you look at the future of the MCU forever. This isn't a leak, a guess, or a fan theory. This is a full-blown narrative that Marvel Studios has been quietly constructing in the shadows, using subtle threads from past films, unused multiverse arcs, and some shockingly overlooked source material that they've never dared to touch. Until now. What if I told you the Doomsday in Avengers Doomsday isn't about a single villain or a world-ending weapon, but the day all timelines are doomed, collapsing into a final convergence that breaks reality into something entirely new? Let's dive into it, piece by piece. To understand how this story unfolds, we have to go back, not to Endgame, but to the real moment the future began unraveling. Loki Season 1. Remember when He Who Remains warned Sylvie that killing him would unleash something far worse? That wasn't just the birth of Kang. That was the death of order. The TVA was the last line of defense not just against Kang variants, but against timeline implosion. Once He Who Remains died, the multiverse didn't just open, it shattered across countless unstable strands. What Marvel hasn't told us yet is that each strand is destined to crash into others. And that crash is what Avengers Doomsday is really about. Here's the thing. Secret Wars is coming, we all know that. But Doomsday is the hinge point. It's not just a battle, it's a collapse event. Marvel is setting the stage for an all-out breakdown of the multiverse, orchestrated not just by Kang, but by a council of Kangs who failed to control their empire. And guess who takes advantage of the chaos? Victor Von Doom. But his story isn't what you think. This isn't the Doom from Earth 616. This is a Doom who survived a dead universe. A Doom who watched his own world die in a multiversal war and now travels the Incursion paths, harvesting power, destroying alternate Earths to keep his own existence intact. He isn't just a villain, he's a survivor. He sees himself as the last true hope for a doomed multiverse. But Doom isn't the only threat. In fact, the brilliance of Avengers Doomsday is that it isn't a villain movie at all. It's a convergence movie. It's Marvel's way of saying everything is colliding, everything is ending, and the only way to survive is to reboot everything. Remember the concept of incursions in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? That was a setup. The Illuminati warned Strange about incursion events where two universes begin to merge, and if left unchecked, both are destroyed. But here's the twist. Marvel is going to reveal that the incursions aren't accidents. They're being intentionally triggered. Kang is part of it, yes, but it's bigger than Kang. We're dealing with a multiversal arms race. Across countless timelines, versions of heroes and villains are trying to preserve their own realities by destroying others. The Kang dynasty will show this from the villain's perspective, but Doomsday flips it. It's when the Avengers, or what's left of them, realize the entire multiverse is collapsing because every reality is fighting to survive at the cost of others. And guess what? The Avengers lose. Doomsday is literally the day they can't win. The day their strategies fall apart. The day the team fractures in ways that can't be repaired. So who's on the team? That's the next piece of the puzzle. Tony and Steve are gone, but Legacy isn't. Sam Wilson is Captain America now, but he's facing more than just a new title. He's leading a team that doesn't trust each other. Multiversal incursions have caused versions of heroes to cross over. Some are friends, some are enemies, and some are straight-up imposters. Sam finds himself working with Monica Rambeau, Kate Bishop, Shang-Chi, and a reluctantly returned Doctor Strange, who knows the truth about incursions because he caused one. The multiverse doesn't forget. He's haunted by the death of the Illuminati and carries guilt that keeps him distant from the others. But he's the only one who understands what's coming. And then there's the wild card, Wanda. Yes, she's alive. Not the Wanda from 616, but one from a collapsed reality where her children died and she survived. She's broken, powerful, and unpredictable, and Doom wants her on his side. See, Doom is building something called the Engine of Reality, a fusion of sorcery and multiversal tech that can pull together fragments of broken universes and forge a single, stable dimension under his control. He needs Wanda's chaos magic to bind it, but Wanda doesn't trust anyone anymore. She's torn between helping the Avengers stop Doom or using the engine to recreate her children from multiversal echoes. This leads to the film's most heartbreaking twist. Not all the heroes agree on the solution. Some, like Sam and Kate, believe in saving as many universes as possible. Others, like Wanda and even Strange, start to question whether one perfect reality is worth sacrificing the rest. This philosophical war splits the team. The climax of the movie isn't a battle against a villain. It's a battle between visions of salvation. And in the middle of it all, a new player enters, one we've been waiting for, the Beyonder. But this isn't the disco Beyonder of the comics. Marvel's version is terrifying, a cosmic being that exists outside the multiverse, watching as realities destroy themselves. He doesn't intervene, he judges. In the comics, Beyonder was curious about humanity. In the MCU, he's disappointed. He sees the collapse and offers one final solution, a battle world. One world, one shot at survival. Each faction gets one champion. Whoever wins, their universe is preserved. Everyone else erased. The heroes think it's madness. Doom thinks it's opportunity. And Kang? He wants to use it to win back everything he lost. So how does the movie end? Not with victory, not with defeat, but with compromise. The Avengers agree to the Beyonder's terms, not because they believe in it, but because they're out of time. Incursions are happening faster. Earths are crashing into each other. The skies are literally tearing apart. The film ends with fragments of realities being pulled into a central zone. Battle world is forming. And as the screen fades to black, we see something chilling, a version of Tony Stark, alive, watching it all unfold. From the shadows of a reality that was never supposed to exist. That's the biggest twist. In Doomsday, we learn that Tony never died. Not our Tony, but a variant who survived the incursion of his world by sacrificing everyone else. He's not evil. He's not good. He's broken. He's been building tech using fragments of destroyed realities, watching from the sidelines, waiting for a moment to rewrite everything, to undo his failure, to bring back the ones he lost. And he's going to play a major role in Secret Wars. But Doomsday sets the emotional foundation. It's not about heroes versus villains. It's about hope versus control, sacrifice versus survival. And it all starts here. So what does all this mean for the MCU? It means everything is changing. This isn't a traditional team-up. It's a multiversal reckoning. Marvel is setting the stage for a total collapse so they can rebuild. A soft reboot that makes space for mutants, new legacies, alternate timelines, and new character dynamics. And it's all going to feel earned. Why? Because Doomsday isn't just spectacle. It's the culmination of every decision made since Iron Man, the consequences of time travel, reality manipulation, magic, science, and broken morality all coming due. You'll notice Marvel's been planting seeds for this quietly. Look at Spider-Man. No Way Home, Strange's spell cracks the sky, showing silhouettes of other villains trying to break through. That wasn't just a tease. It was a warning. Then Multiverse of Madness shows Strange dealing with incursions, but notice how the Darkhold is destroyed in every universe. That's not coincidence. It's foreshadowing. Something or someone is cleansing magic across the multiverse. That's Doom. He's preparing the field. And in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Kang warns that they will burn the multiverse to the ground. He wasn't being dramatic. He was telling the truth. Even the Marvels gives us clues. Monica ends up in an alternate universe where mutants exist. That's not an Easter egg. It's a doorway. These characters aren't just cameo machines. They are pieces of a collapsing puzzle, and Doomsday is when the full picture is finally revealed. The multiverse isn't breaking because of accidents, it's breaking because it's unsustainable. The sacred timeline was never sacred. It was a containment field. Without it, the multiverse devours itself. And only the boldest, most dangerous minds, Kang, Doom, Strange, Wanda, even Stark, are willing to reshape it. And guess what? We haven't even touched on the X-Men yet. They're coming, but not in the way you think. Not as a team, not as students, as refugees from destroyed Earths. The MCU is going to introduce mutants as survivors of Incursion events scattered across realities. Charles Xavier knows what's coming. That's why the Illuminati tried to warn Strange. They've seen Battleworld before. They know how it ends. That's why Charles sacrificed himself not to stop Wanda, but to send a message across the multiverse. Prepare. That's the word echoing across the collapsing timelines. Prepare for Battleworld. Prepare for extinction. Prepare for the final convergence. And this convergence isn't just timelines colliding, it's ideologies, legacies, and choices. Marvel's brilliance in Avengers Doomsday is that it transforms everything we think we know about multiversal storytelling into a deeply character-driven conflict. This isn't going to be a film where heroes just punch their way through the problem. This is going to be the film where each character is forced to confront the cost of their decisions and whether their version of saving the world is even the right one anymore. Doctor Strange, for example, is haunted by the mistakes of his variants. Defender Strange, Sinister Strange, Zombie Strange, they all tried to do the same thing, control the uncontrollable. But the Strange of 616 begins to understand that knowledge and power aren't solutions to chaos. Acceptance is. He'll become the advocate for letting the multiverse die with dignity, something completely unexpected for a man who always looked for the answer in the arcane. And yet, when the fate of all reality rests in the hands of competing philosophies, Strange takes the most human approach of all, surrender. But that philosophy clashes violently with Wanda's. She's seen what surrender means. She surrendered her kids. She surrendered her identity. And she suffered. So now she believes that pain is the price of power, and she's ready to pay it all if it means reshaping reality in her image. This version of Wanda isn't the pure villain of Multiverse of Madness, but she isn't redeemed either. She's standing on the edge, and Doomsday forces her to choose between the illusion of control and the raw unpredictability of grief. And her decision? It shatters everything. Wanda makes a move that not even Doom anticipates. She destroys the engine of reality. Not out of mercy, but out of despair. She realizes that any reality forged from pain will only repeat it. And in doing so, she triggers a chain reaction. The final incursion. Earth 616 and several other core universes begin to merge uncontrollably. Time dilates. The laws of physics and magic bend. And from the fractures in space, forgotten heroes begin to pour in. This is where Marvel does something bold. It brings back versions of beloved characters in their final moments. Logan, as played by Hugh Jackman, emerges from a reality where mutants are hunted. He's bloodied, exhausted, and he knows exactly what this is. He's seen the end before, but this time, he's not alone. Storm, Magneto, Deadpool, even Charles Xavier himself stepped through, not as saviors, but as witnesses, because they understand something the Avengers haven't grasped yet. Battleworld isn't a contest. It's a crucible. Meanwhile, the surviving Avengers fracture even more. Sam Wilson wants to evacuate Earth 616, create safe pockets of reality using Stark tech and Kamala Khan's multiversal mutations. But Kamala is missing. She was taken during an earlier incursion by a faction calling themselves the Architects. Multiversal survivors who believe only the most powerful timelines should endure. And their leader? A variant of Reed Richards, but not the hero, not the genius, This is the Maker, twisted, brilliant, and entirely unbound by ethics. The Maker becomes a major third force in Avengers Doomsday. Unlike Kang or Doom, he doesn't care about domination or order. He wants evolution. He sees the multiverse collapse as natural selection on a cosmic scale. He believes only universes that can adapt, mutate, deserve to survive. And Kamala's DNA holds the key. She's not just a multiversal anomaly. She's the first true hybrid, a nexus being whose genes are stable across all realities. The Maker wants to replicate her, weaponize her, and in doing so, becomes the target of Doom himself. Now let's talk about Doom's real plan. Because Doomsday reveals something truly horrifying. Doom has been seeding versions of himself across the multiverse. Not as leaders, not as villains, as failures. Each variant of Doom who falls in another universe is a strategic sacrifice. Why? Because every Doom that dies leaves behind trace code in the multiversal fabric, and Doom has been absorbing that code. He's not just one man anymore. He's Legion, a collective consciousness of Dooms, all bound by a single prime directive: survival at all costs. But here's the twist. Prime Doom has a weakness. He cannot process empathy. The moment any variant of Doom experiences regret, love, or mercy, they disconnect from the hive. And who finds this out? Valyria Richards, his daughter. Yes, Marvel's Doomsday introduces Valyria, not as a child, but as a hidden survivor of an alternate Fantastic Four timeline. She was protected by Sue Storm as their Earth crumbled, and now she's here, confronting the father who isn't hers, but could have been. Her scenes with Doom are some of the most emotionally devastating. She doesn't fight him. She speaks to him, tells him about the versions of himself who died protecting families, who tried to be better. And for the first time, the Doom Collective hesitates. That crack, that moment of pause, becomes the opportunity Strange needs to cast a spell that fractures Doom's network, separating his consciousness into fragmented echoes. Doom is still alive, but his control is broken, and the multiverse begins to bleed. This is when Battleworld begins to form fully. Reality shatters like glass, floating islands of universes orbit a collapsing core. And each island is now ruled by a faction. Sam's Avengers protect the innocent. The Maker's architects manipulate evolution. Doom, wounded but dangerous, retreats into a dark zone with Wanda. And a mysterious fourth faction composed of rogue timeline variants, including Loki, Sylvie, and even Killmonger, claims the ruins and kingdom of Asgard. These groups begin preparing for the Battleworld Games, a cosmic tournament that will determine which reality survives. But there's a final twist. The Beyonder isn't who we thought. He's not a single being. He's a vessel, a construct created by the first firmament, the original consciousness of existence before the multiverse. In Marvel lore, the first firmament was the sole being until creation fractured into multiple realities. And now it wants to restore itself by consuming all others. The Beyonder is its herald, its test. Battleworld isn't a gift. It's a trap. The survivors aren't being given a chance. They're being observed, measured, and ultimately sacrificed, unless they can break the game. This is where Tony Stark returns. Variant Tony, the man who survived his Earth's incursion. He reveals he's been tracking the Beyonder for years, building a failsafe using quantum strands, the last remnants of the TVA's original core. His plan? Hijack Battleworld. Turn the tournament into a tether, not to the first firmament, but to a new beginning. A way to trigger a Big Bang. A soft reboot of the multiverse. A chance to rebuild not what was lost, but what should have been. But here's the dilemma. To do it, someone has to stay behind. Someone has to overload the tether from within Battleworld's core, which will be annihilated in the process. And that's where the final conflict arises. Who makes the sacrifice? Sam offers. He's the moral center. But Strange refuses. It was always his burden. But Wanda steps forward. And this time, not out of grief or rage. Out of peace. She's ready to let go. In one of the most powerful scenes Marvel has ever written, Wanda says goodbye to the multiverse, not with fear, but with hope. She speaks to every version of herself across the shattered worlds, and she lets them go. As the tether activates and Battleworld begins to collapse inward, the factions unite for one final push, not to fight, but to build. Tony guides the energy, Kamala stabilizes the quantum lattice, and Strange weaves the final spell. And as light floods everything, we cut to black. Then silence. Then a heartbeat. And then a new Earth. The final minutes of Avengers Doomsday don't show a triumphant team. They show a world slowly waking up. People remembering fragments of other lives. Mutants existing openly. New heroes rising. No Avengers yet. Just possibility. And a voice. Charles Xavier's whispering, "We have much to teach them." This is the secret. Doomsday is Marvel's multiversal reset. It's how they merge the X-Men, Fantastic Four, legacy heroes, and new characters into one cohesive universe. It's not a hard reboot. It's not a full erase. It's an echo. The core ideas remain, but now they're rearranged in ways that open infinite storytelling without contradiction. And the cost? One final sacrifice. One final reckoning. One day where everything ended, so everything could begin. And if you're wondering what comes next, Marvel leaves a single post-credits tease. A quiet moment. A boy sitting in a lab, reading ancient texts, watching old Stark footage. And when the camera pans up, it's Nathaniel Richards. But he isn't Kang. Not yet. He's just a kid with a brilliant mind. And on his wall, a blueprint for the Chronopolis. The cycle continues. And that's the genius of Avengers Doomsday. It doesn't just set up secret wars. It justifies it. It earns it. It makes it not just a comic adaptation, but a narrative necessity. Marvel knows the audience is ready for something new, something bold, something risky. Doomsday is that risk. A film that doesn't give easy answers, doesn't hand-wave consequences, and doesn't promise that everyone makes it out alive. But it does promise this. Marvel's future will be forged by choice, not destiny. Not timelines, not sacred orders. Choice. And the biggest choice was Marvel's own, to break the formula and finally tell the story that ends it all. To begin again. So now you know the full story. The theories, the arcs, the setup, the emotional payoffs and narrative masterstrokes Marvel is hiding in plain sight. The cameos won't matter. The CGI won't carry it. What will carry Avengers Doomsday is the truth that, at its core, this is a film about endings. Earned, painful, transformative endings. And that's why, no matter what leaks or trailers you see before it drops, nothing will prepare you for what this story really is. Marvel's most ambitious risk, their most emotional film, and their most definitive moment since Endgame. Because now we know the Doomsday wasn't the end, it was the rebirth.